What is organizational behavior? It's the study of psychology, social psychology, sociology, and anthropology. It's the study of the ways in which people act in a group. More importantly, what makes people act and think in the ways that they do when they are in a group. We can focus our time on cognitive dissonance and what people think versus what people actually do. It is important to understand that we have a large influence on each other, and there's something to be said in the correlation between what somebody thinks, says, and does. We build our relationships on trust and meaning, and that's the definition of a true relationship. When studying group behavior, we seek to find the dynamics of a group and the aspects that take role in forming a functioning or unfunctioning group. As our society becomes more diverse and our economy becomes more global, group behavior becomes even more important when we learn to form relationships with those that we are different from our own culture and avoiding being ethnocentric. Diversity. But simply put, is variety. There are many things that make us unique, such as age, gender, race, ethnicity, and abilities. All of these characteristics make the workplace dynamic. In a successful organization, it is important to be dynamic, but the more importance is to understand how to not adversely be affected by diversity. The opportunity for diversity can both help or hurt a team performance, all based on the knowledge and understanding of each other. To simply explain this, if we had to build a house and we had to have all the right tools, we went and got the right tools. And because we had the right tools, we have the opportunity to build a home. But if we don't know how to use these tools when they're most valuable, we'll never know how to build the home and probably have to go buy one instead. This is the same thing as workplace diversity. If we cannot understand each other and know the strengths and weaknesses that we all have, we will not know how to work together and complete a project. Because we all carry unique things about ourselves, this poses serious leverage when coming to working together. Nothing great has ever been achieved alone, and that's a fact. Alexander the Great, Christopher Columbus, Martin Luther King. There's a few of the many examples of people who did something in a group and used each other's differences as leverage and accomplished something great. Here is a picture of Maslow's hierarchy above, and is a simple representation of the hierarchy of needs. Simply put, one cannot come before another, as they all complement each other in the overall goal of self-actualization. What is self-actualization? It is, by definition, the realization or fulfillment of one's talents and potentialities, especially considered as a drive or need present in everyone. We all carry multiple roles in our life. For example, I am a son, brother, cousin, boyfriend, student, coworker, and friend. These are some of the roles that I play in my life. These roles are all different aspects of my life, such as home, school, and work. And to a certain point, we all fall into the different levels of the hierarchy in our own lives. This all stems from the degree at which we are sold. If your concern is whether you are going to be able to have a meal tonight and sleep under a roof, your only motivation is survival. You're only sold on the fact that you're living and that you need to eat and be sheltered. We cannot move to the next step of safety or social belonging without having to worry about food and shelter. To conclude this point, it is not just simply the thought process that gets you to self-actualization. It is creating change in order to change your life continually as we find purpose and meaning that is greater than ourselves. This is a lifetime goal that can be sought out through habitual actions that eventually make a mark. And in quotations, what I've found is if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Now we can talk about needs and motivation. As we looked at Maslow's hierarchy of life, we found different levels of fulfillment in realizing self-actualization. In the workplace, let's assume for our case that the individuals are at least past the physiological stage. Our jobs consume at least half or more of our lives, and they play a large role in motivation, confidence, and happiness. The biggest motivation to a worker is a feeling that of what you do matters and does not go unrecognized. In fact, what you do makes a difference and brings value to the company. Most individuals do not feel what they do even matters. There's three basic needs in McClelland's theory of needs. In McClelland's theory of needs, there are three different categories. There is the need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for affiliation. The need for achievement is described as a drive to excel. This is stemmed from motivation and purpose when you find what you do matters and makes a difference. The need for power is a need to make others believe or behave in a way that they would not have behaved elsewise, basically stemming from influence and impact, and what you do does not go unrecognized, and also otherwise other people take liking to what you do and feel it has an impact. The need for affiliation, which is the desire for friendly and close interpersonal relationships, basically having relationships that go both ways as far as helping others and being able to be helped yourself. Societal differences. As we explain diversity in the terms of sex, age, race, ethnicity, and the abilities that we have yet to discuss some of the things around us that impact the way we perceive things and the way that we act to them or react. With perception, by definition, it's a process in which individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to their environment. Being said, we can define culture in a few categorical differences to explain some of the viewpoints, and these differences come from Hofstede's model of organizational culture. There's 5 different categories in Hofstede's model. There's power distance, masculinity versus femininity, individualism, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term orientation. In power distance, it is the meaning of power and where it is delegated. Power can be centralized at the top or dispersed throughout the hierarchy, depending on the society. Masculinity versus femininity, which is the effective roles of males and females' values in a society. The roles that females play in a workplace has a lot to say about this society. A culture with assertive males in important role positions would tend to be viewed as a very masculine culture. With individualism, it's the mindset of being driven by personal interests or interests of the group, which is described as collectivism. A group can fall on either individualistic or collective society. Some societies have an approach of, and it takes a village to raise a child mentality, which is the goodwill of the society depending on the well-being of the child, which would stem from a collective society. With uncertainty avoidance, or of how to respond to unusual or unforeseen circumstances, which is the relation to tolerance of risk. In some societies, we deem profits as risks in different ways. In a more conservative society, low toleration of risk, profits would be sought through lowering the production costs. In a more risk-bearing society, profits may be sought through a new venture or partnership into a new market with more potential. These are the differences in the perceptions of uncertainty avoidance. With long-term orientation, we could ask, how do you associate with your company? Or, what is the culture of your company's employees in the term of their employment? Depending on the thought process and whether you are thinking of this week's objectives or your 5-year plan, we can think in long or short-term orientations. But this places a large factor in the actions of the business. It is said that the managers are best paid when compensated in the regards of long-term value and will be best compensated a manager or CFO. An example, it is better to pay a CFO on raising the company's stock in 5 years versus making the most profits by the end of the fiscal year to get a Christmas bonus. It's a mindset, and it all orients people's goals and the objectives and agendas that they have. To conclude, in order to study organizational behavior, we have to refer to the 4 original aspects of it: psychology, social psychology, sociology, and anthropology. We cannot move on to understand what people think, say, and do in a group until we understand what influences people individually and how we are basically engineered by the societies and values installed in us. We stated before, human beings have a great social impact on each other and what we think, say, and do in groups. This is when they quote, 2 minds think better than one. We can refer to this as a leverage that we create from bringing pieces of a puzzle together that we wouldn't have if we remained on our own. When we come together, it is almost as if we take 2 atoms and create a new bond. Now we have a new element that carries its own characteristics. But how do we work together, and what are the outcomes of successful group orientation? Lastly, as we all heard before, if we do not study history, we are bound to repeat it. Organizational behavior is a continued study as the world continues to evolve. We can better accommodate the change of the world and where it is going if we can also understand where it has been and came from.